Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the launch of our first of one of many upcoming series. Welcome to our Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. This is a phenomenal opportunity. The whole goal and the whole purpose of Making the Case of the Lawyer Dreams is to try to bring you guys the tips that you guys need to be successful. And I know oftentimes in our IG lives, you oftentimes hear from me. But the purpose of Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams is to provide an opportunity for you guys to be able to talk and engage and speak with people who have been where you are fairly recently, and they want to be able to share how to successfully navigate this law school admission process. Now, just recently in 2019, they just dropped the newest numbers when it comes to fall 2019. They talked about the numbers and the statistics in regards to who saw people get admitted into law school, and these are numbers that I think that we are going to be able to evaluate, to be able to help you guys to devise a strategy and a plan to be able to help you learn how to successfully navigate this law school admission process. I am so excited about the launch of this series. I am so excited about the opportunity that we have right now to be able to bring so many people who we have featured to life, where you get an opportunity to be able to hear from them, to find out what they did, so you can be able to duplicate it and be able to try to apply it yourself. Now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our first guest for our first launch of our first series of Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. Her name is Adriante Carter. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. And again, go ahead where you are viewing our session from, and also let me know where you are in your journey when it comes to becoming a lawyer. I want you guys to be able to understand that becoming a lawyer is something that takes time, energy, commitment, and sacrifice. But the rewards that you get from taking it to the next step is something that can be phenomenal. However, it takes more than just want to. It takes more than just saying that you want to be a lawyer. You got to put in that work. And so let's go ahead and introduce our first guest, the first guest for our launch of our series, Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. Of course, we featured her. Now you get a chance to talk to her. Go ahead and I'll give you the floor.
Hello, my name is Adriante Carter. Just like a little bit about myself. We're gonna go into it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, I am a first-generation college graduate, first-generation professional student. I did my undergrad at Delaware State University, where I graduated summa cum laude with a 4.0 GPA in political science and philosophy. Just some things I did in undergrad. I was a legislative fellow for the Delaware General Assembly. I was a teacher assistant for philosophy courses on campus. I interned with U.S. Senator Chris Coons. I volunteered, all around Delaware and whatnot, and I was the president of mock trial college Democrats. As you can see, I go to the University of Florida, College of Law. And before I get into the whole application process, just law school is tough. Let y'all know that right now. It's real. It's a time commitment, and before you get here, if you just master those time management skills, I promise your life will be so much easier. Understand that it's not at all what undergrad was. It's a complete shift. I came straight through from undergrad, so it was definitely a learning experience. It's definitely a learning curve when you get here. And if you are that smart person in undergrad who's always been at the top of the class, who always knows everything, just know when you get to law school, everybody is smart. So don't let that discourage you or anything. Actually find someone who's smarter than you, because that's how you're going to improve yourself. So yeah, like I said, when I was tough, I'm actually sitting here right now with my contact textbook open. I'm still at school. It is 8:36 Eastern time. So
saying you have to work after 5? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, they tell you 9 to 5, but what they really mean is 8 to 8, 8 to 9. It's a 12, 13 hour a day thing. Especially since you don't set your schedule for classes. So everything you do has to work around the schedule that's already been put forth for you. You're going to get placed in a section, and that section is going to have its set class. And that's just going to be is what it is. And they can fix that or mix that up or put you wherever they want because they know that you don't have anything else to do because law school is going to be your life. But yeah, like I said, it's a time commitment. It's difficult, but it's not something that you can't do. So like, never think that. But we can get into substance if you want, or.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want you guys to do, okay, this is a very great opportunity. So I want you guys to be able to take this as a chance to fill up your chat box with questions, because you see here, you have some literally where you guys were literally 6 months ago, right?
Exactly. I
And so
graduated.
now she is, of course, now being reprogrammed and retaught how to do everything all over again. But nevertheless, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for you guys to be able to get access to resources. For often, just like she was, I went to law school and I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't know anybody in my family that were lawyers, but nevertheless, I had to find a way to make it work. And so right now you have a prime opportunity to get resources and gems from people who have been there. Heck, she was there 6 months ago. So I want you guys to be able to utilize this as a chance. Grab your notebooks, grab your paper, because guess what? This young lady right here, she ain't having to rely on Sally. She ain't going to have to rely on loans. And what I want you guys to be able to understand is that the way to be able to find ways to pay for law school, of course, it will take some work because she definitely put in that work. But nevertheless, the rewards afterwards are so much more prettier. Just recently, law schools just released the latest numbers talking about the average amount of loans that you're going to get once you leave law school could count up to be about $120,000. And I know at times when we think about loans, we don't really think about having to pay them back, but that's something that you're going to have to do. And so the same energy and effort that she put forth in trying to secure them acceptances, you've got to also follow her lead and put in that same effort and energy to be able to try to get these coins and get these scholarships. Because there's over 405 scholarships out there right now available. And I know you're tired from studying. I know you're tired from doing all these little drafts. But guess what? You want to also not just be able to get into law school, you also want to find ways to pay for it.
Yeah. So just like keeping it real, cost of law school. Law school is expensive no matter if you go public or private, top of the rankings or the bottom of the ranking. Like you're going to be paying a pretty penny for your legal education. And also you can't work your 1 year. I mean, the ABA allows you to work 20 hours, but you're not gonna have time. Like you're not gonna want to work after you leave school. So you're gonna have to take out most likely both tuition and living expense loans, especially if you're planning on going to school outside of a state where you currently live, like I did. I'm originally from Baltimore, and I went to University of Florida. I go to University of Florida. So it's just like you're gonna have to understand like the cost. It's not a joke, it's real. Like it's not an arbitrary thing. It's not like, oh, law school is expensive. Like no, law school is actually expensive. I think the University of Florida is actually one of the it's expensive law schools. It's about $38 a year for out-of-state tuition. But if you want to go to the high, like University of Chicago, Stanford, Harvard, all those, you're gonna pay $70,000 a year easy for your tuition, and those are private. So like those are like flat. No, I can say out of state. But outside of like the paying when you get here, before you get here, it's still going to be a pretty penny. Your application process, your application fee, your CAS fee on LSAT, your LSAT fee, it all adds up. I spent a little bit over $1,000 applying for law school, and I got fee waived for 7 of the 8 schools I applied to. So it's understanding that before you even get here, you're gonna have to put aside some money to be able to apply to get here, and it is a very elitist profession. So just get used to that. They're gonna assume you have money to pay for this stuff, and that's one of the ways they actually filter people out. If you don't have money to pay for the application process, you're not going to have money to pay for law school, and you're not going to get. It's a discouraging factor, but don't let that discourage you. Like, just understand that going into this process is going to cost you money. But the money that you put in, the time that you put in now is going to pay off in the future if you do really want to be a lawyer, if you do really want to be here. This isn't something that you like happen into. You don't fall into wanting to be a lawyer. Like, this is something that you want to commit yourself to. You have to understand that that's going to be sacrifices and everything like that. So if that's like not going to Chipotle every week, that's not going to Chipotle every week. That's being able to save, but like that's also a good characteristic because once you get here, like I said, you're not working, so you're gonna have to support yourself, and you don't want supporting yourself to be a hindrance on your education. So you want to be able to have like those time management, those saving abilities, because it's gonna all have to come into play when you have like bills to pay. You got to pay your rent on the first. You got a contract midterm to do. Like you want to be able to not have to worry about some of those things, so you don't get unnecessary stress, because like I said, it's gonna be stress enough. And as far as like taking out loans and stuff like that, there are federal loans, there are private loans, but always, 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 always look at that interest rate. Make sure that it's lower. The federal loans are going to be a fixed interest rate, so you want to be able to, which means that like that's the interest rate you're going to be paying over the life of the loan, as opposed to a variable interest rate, which can go up or down depending on the economy, pretty much. So you want to be able to understand that whatever money you take out is going to pale in comparison to the money that you're actually going to be paying back, because that interest starts accruing the day the loan is dispersed to your school, and it continues to accrue over the life of the loan. So like say you take out a $10,000 loan, depending on the interest rate, you might pay like $20,000 for that $10,000 you took out. So just understand that. And I'm being real, I'm being candid, I'm being honest. Like that's what's going on. Like that's what you're gonna have to do. Unless you make that time, you put in that work, you put in that effort to be able to get a scholarship. Because having a scholarship just takes the pressure off your back. Because a lot of the pressure in law school is to get a job that's going to pay you enough to pay back your loans. But if you have a scholarship, you can, like, that pressure is like kind of gone. Not gone entirely, because you do want to get a good paying job, but it's gone in the sense that you have more flexibility in what you do. Like a lot of people will go into big law because they believe that is the only way to make $180,000 a year, because they have $200,000 of loans waiting on their back. So you just have to be able to, if you get a scholarship, then like that takes that pressure off. Like you can go do public interest work straight out, because like you don't have that burden of paying back. Public interest obviously doesn't pay you as much as a big law firm. But you get back that moral thing, because, you know, they're going to suck your life in big law. But, like, if you get a scholarship, then that pressure's kind of gone. So how do you get a scholarship? I wish I could tell you. No, I'm joking. But so when I went into applying to law schools, I knew that I had this pipe dream. One day I'm going to go to law school for free. It's going to happen. But then, like, it wasn't, like, really real, but then I got 2 4-hour scholarships. So then it became real, because what I did before then is I put in time and effort. I put it into my studies. I put it into my LSAT practice, because those are, like, the 3 aspects of, like, your application, along with, like, your statements and stuff like that. And that builds a picture that you send to the law school, and that's what they look at. Invariably, they're gonna look at your LSAT and your GPA, because those are quantifiable. Those are unequivocal ways that they can justify giving you a certain amount of money. But that being said, law schools, especially like those big state schools, those PWIs. I went to HBCU. Those PWIs, just to be candid, just to be honest, they want to give you money. Black people, they want diversity at school. Black women, they want you at their school. So they're going to do what they can to get you there. especially if you market yourself as somebody who they need at their school, and you do that.
How do you go about marketing yourself? I think this is something that people really need to hear. I know that you, in the post that we did for you, you talked about being unapologetically a Black woman. So
Yeah.
What it is exactly that you need to do in order to market yourself, to make yourself into an appealing candidate that they'll bid for.
So you need to be able to know yourself and not just tell them, show them. Like in your application process, in your writings and everything that you're doing, don't just tell them what you did. Show them what you did. Show them examples. Make them think that they need you at their school. And don't be shy. Don't be humble, because a lot of people out here are not shy and are not humble. And those are the people that are going to get those opportunities because they know how to market themselves and put themselves out there. And don't be scared to apply to a school that you think is out. Make them want you by like telling your story. Like I said, I told my story. I was unapologetically Black, and my personal statement, it was about being a Black woman in America, like what that meant, and how I started off on the bench. That was my analogy I used. I used a baseball reference. I started off on a bench when others were already on third base. So it's like you have to be able to tell your story fully and totally. Don't be afraid. There's like this thing, like you don't know who's reading your application. You don't know what to say. Sure, you don't know, but you're never gonna know. So just say whatever you want. They either will like it or they don't. But you will never know if they don't like it because they'll accept you. So just like tell your story unapologetically. Like never be afraid to not be humble. Never be afraid. Well, never be afraid to hold on. I'm doing something. I'm sorry. Never be a negative. I'm sorry. Someone came wrong. Like never be afraid to like say who you are. Like say what you did. Like do stuff so you can say what you did, but like never be afraid to tell that story. Like I said, market yourself. Just make it so that that school wants you. Just an example. So I told my story. I was unapologetically Black, first generation grad, first generation professional student, and I told that story throughout my entire application. And the University of Florida actually offered me a 75% at first. And before I could even get around to negotiating that scholarship, they unprovoked upped me to a full scholarship. And I actually, when I came down here for admitted students, I asked them why. They said your application was complete and your GPA was perfect. So like you were supposed to be here. And we know that the numbers that you had and the application that you had, other schools would have wanted you too, but we wanted you at the University of Florida. So we were going to do whatever it took to get you here, which included getting me more money. Because at the end of the day, you can go by location or whatever, but if a school is offering you a lot of money, just think that's money that you're not going to have to pay back. So like just take that into account. Always allow yourself to open up your horizons. Like I said, I'm originally from Baltimore. I applied to 8 schools, none of them in the region. Because like I knew that I wanted to be elsewhere. I knew I needed to get away, but I also knew that there are schools outside of the region I was in that would give me money. And also when you go about getting money, like out of schools getting more money, if they come to you with an initial offer, they're gonna offer you scholarships. Different schools are gonna offer you different scholarships. And if you want to get more money out of one school, you have to play up your other scholarships against the scholarship they offered you. And you do that by applying to schools that are competitive to each other. So schools within the same geographic region, schools that are closer to Rankins, because those are the schools who are competing for the same student. So you want one school to give you money. It's that example. So when I went to my application process, I applied to Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Ohio, all in the same geographic region, all competing for the same students. And Wisconsin, and Ohio State are actually like really close in the rankings. So I was always, Ohio State was originally my first school I wanted to go to. I got in. They didn't give me enough money, but Wisconsin let me in, and they gave me a full tuition scholarship. So I used the money, and Michigan State gave me a 90% scholarship. So I used the money that Michigan State gave me and Wisconsin gave me to get more money out of Ohio State. I ended up still not going there because no amount of percentage was going to top what Florida was giving me. So just being able to apply to schools like in the same geographic region, like I said, and like competitive in the rankings, because those are the schools that are going to be competing for the same students and will be more apt to give more money. Like that's an underlying thing that people don't tell you about. You can negotiate your scholarships. Like just because they tell you a number doesn't mean like that's all they can offer you, because they're going to tell everyone. They're going to tell a bunch of people the number, and some of those people are not going to accept that. So they're going to have more money to give you. And you go like about like getting money, like also going back to that, but just like apply early, because like if you apply early, that's a time where schools have money to just hand out, as opposed to applying later in the application process when like, a lot of their money is already going to be spoken for, and you're probably just going to be like picking up scraps at that point. So like you want to apply early, and by early I mean applications open into August, early September. So my hard deadline was New Year's Eve. I was gonna have all my applications out by New Year's Eve. A lot of applications aren't due until February. Some schools even push it to like July or August, whatever. But you never want to be that person who's applying in like July for a school that starts in August. So you want to be able to apply early so you can like get that first date of that money. And I didn't apply to any school early decision, but a lot of early decision applications come with like guaranteed scholarships. So if that's something like you guys are interested in, you guys can do that. But I didn't do it because I didn't want to necessarily tie myself to a school, because if you're accepted to an early decision, like you're pretty much saying that you're definitely going to go there. So I didn't want to tie myself to that. But if you guys are interested, definitely know that you want to go to that school, then definitely like do that so you can get more money.
Now she brought a whole bunch of gems that I think that you guys need to understand. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure that they understand this. Okay, now of course when she first introduced herself, she laid out all the things that were present in her resume, right? And so the things that she listed out are the ways that she showed how much that she wanted. You can't have no bare naked resume saying that you want to be a lawyer when you got 1.5 million other people who say they want that lawyer dream too. So she really stacked her resume to the point where it did something that helped distinguish her from everybody else that was applying to school. In addition to that, one of the things she really pointed out to me, I think you guys may have missed. She said she was from Beemore. She said she went to Delaware State, and now she's at Florida. What does that tell you? That tells you that she was able to be flexible. She was able to understand that in order to make her lawyer dreams happen, although she had her ideal framework of what would have been comfortable for her, because I'm definitely sure that it would have been more comfortable and more convenient to go closer, but the more flexible that you are when you apply to law schools, the more opportunities begin to open up to you. Okay?
Somebody's asked me to repeat what was on my resume. So I was a legislative fellow for the Delaware General Assembly. I interned for United States Senator Chris Coons. I was a teacher's assistant for philosophy courses on campus. I did a lot of volunteer work around Delaware. I did a lot of political campaign work. I was a political science major with a philosophy minor. So I did a lot of political campaign work, most of it unpaid. But I did a lot of like political stuff around the area. And then I was the president of mock trial in College Democrats. So just getting involved on campus and getting opportunities off campus as well. And, whatever field that you want to get into. So I'm apt to go into government work when I graduate from law school. So because like that's my background, that's where I have experience at. So whatever like you want, maybe think, you don't have to know what you're gonna do in law school, because God knows I have no idea right now. So you don't have to know what you're gonna do, but in case you have like an idea, just as an experience, like build up your resume in some way, like do something. Law schools want to know that you're not just school. They want to know that you can do multiple things at the same time, balance a heavy course load, and also have life, do things on campus, network, and all that stuff like that. So you just gotta just build up your resume, make it so that law schools like know, like, oh yeah, I can get good grades, and I can also be network on campus, be leadership in organizations, do internships all over the place, like stuff like that. Like just know, like build up your resume so that you can do a lot. Because when you're here, that's exactly what you're doing. You're gonna have to balance having 16 credit hours a week, math, 16 hours in class, times 2, which is 32 hours outside of class. On top of the 16 hours you spend in class, that's a 48-hour week. And I'm gonna let you know that's a lie. That is an entire lie. Like I said, some people are here in the beginning. I've been here since 8 a.m. It is now 9 p.m. I'm still sitting at the law school. So you just know every day I'm here 12, 13 hours. That's also because I don't take my phone. I don't like bringing negativity into my household. So I leave all my books at school. I leave all my work at school. I get all my work done here. And whatever's not done, I get done the next day. And also, well, I don't know, like law school advice, be able to forgive yourself if you're not able to get everything you want to get done. Start that now. Because when you get here, it's going to be hard to do this. Because you're going to have a schedule. You're going to have stuff you want to stick to. But sometimes this law school thing throws stuff at you, and you just got to take it with the punches and keep it pushing. So just be able to forgive yourself. That's some advice.
Right, because one of the things that's going to be very important, and one of the mistakes so many people make, is when you're applying to law school, this is like your first audition to learn how to manage your time. For a lot of people, applying to law school, it's kind of like the first time that you've done something as an adult, because when you did it for college, oftentimes you did it with your family and you did it with your friend, you did it with your family and your mom or your parents. So this is your first time to take a step towards doing something on your own. And one of the biggest mistakes so many people make is they say, well, you know what? I'm going to do my personal statement after I study for the LSAT, and then I'm going to apply to scholarships. One of the things you have to do is this is your first test to learn how to manage your time and find ways to be able to do all those things simultaneously. Because one of the biggest mistakes that happens is oftentimes you say, oh, well, I got to take the LSAT more than one time. So you've now taken the LSAT more than one time, and now you haven't even started on your personal statement. Now, Adriante, tell them, like, how many drafts did it take for you until your personal statement and your application was what we would call law school ready?
Oh, so I wrote my personal statement about 4 times. So I wrote it once. I left it alone for 2 weeks. So that's also started early, because you're gonna want to make those edits, but you also want to have time to get your applications in on time. So I started it. I wrote it once. And the first time I wrote it, my personal statement that I submitted was completely different. So you write it once, you leave it alone. That was my advice. I wrote it, left it, went back to get it, and then I rewrote it again, and then I sent it out to my professors. Because that's also a thing. Make connections with your professors. I don't know where you guys are in like your undergrad career or whatever, but make connections with those professors, because they're going to be writing you letters of recommendation because you need them. And you also want to get help in your application process. So I gave it to my philosophy professor. I gave it to my political science professor, 2 philosophy professors and a political science professor. You want to be able to put as many eyes on your application as possible, because you want to see other viewpoints of it. Because of course, if you look at your own personal statement, editing and reading your own work is the hardest thing to do, because you know yourself. So like, even if there's a gap in there, you're going to fill it in your mind because you wrote it. So, but if someone else reads it and they're like, oh, there's a gap here, you can fill it. So you want to just put as many eyes on it as possible. Like I said, I rewrote it about 4 times, and I even like edited or whatever for different schools, because different schools have different page limits, and like content wise, like some schools went through, like, there's like multiple different essays you can write. I mean, you have to do your personal statement, but there's also a diversity statement that you can do. There's a so some schools have like a why you want to go there essay, and I say write all of them. You want to give the school as many opportunities to look at your writing as possible. So yeah, like I said, I rewrote about 4 times. Don't be scared. Just proofread it. Get it proofread, get it read over, get opinions on it, like from your friends, from professors, from your parents even. Just like get somebody to look at it. I would say that I would look at it if you sent them to me, but I don't want to make promises I cannot necessarily keep. So
Wait, you just finished midterms, so you got a lot on your plate.
yeah.
But
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying, like, if anyone did want to reach out to me, just follow me or whatever, and we could possibly talk.
absolutely. Now, one of the things I want you guys to be able to understand is, like, again, you have to learn how to be flexible and understand that whatever you may initially present may change. One of the resources that I've actually came up with a great idea for you guys to reach out to is contact, if in fact you are enrolled in school, if in fact you're in undergrad right now, a great idea for you is potentially, why don't you holler at the admissions office at your school, right? They are going through applications for undergrad, so they know what to look for. And so oftentimes when we find ourselves in a situation where we have a limited amount of resources, we still have to find a way to move and hustle to make sure that when that time comes, that we're being able to present our best self possible. Now, one thing I definitely want you to share with them, a mistake a lot of people make specifically is coming down to, okay, I got my personal statement, but what in the heck do I write for my diversity essay? I mean, what is that about? What do I need to say?
So you don't want to repeat yourself. So if you write your personal statement about being Black, like I did, you want to show diversity in a different way. So like I said, first generation law student, first generation college grad, like that's the way I'm diverse. Because like just look at the school, like if the posting that they'll put on LSAT will tell you like an example of ways like you can be diverse. Like it's not just race or class or gender, like you can be diverse in different. So just look into that. I wrote like I said, you don't want to repeat yourself, so just write about something different, another way you're diverse. But yeah, like I said, like just you don't want to repeat yourself. Like they're gonna be reading so many applications, so
yeah, because
you don't want to be.
Because one of the things that you guys have to be able to understand, and this is very scary because you're investing a lot of time and energy into this, is that there is no guarantees that the admissions people are going to read your whole application. So because of that, because the sheer volume is massive, and you're dealing with a lot of the people who are making the decisions about your law school dreams. Yes, there may be people in admissions. Also, there are professors, and in some instances, there are people who are actual law students who may be a part of the Student Bar Association. So you never know what day they're going to pick up your application. So you will have to make sure that every word, every line has value, because there's no reason, they owe you nothing, right? So your goal is to be able to try to sell yourself. And you can't treat it like an old car that you warm up and you philosophize. You have to be able to get to the point. And in fact, that's something that you learn. One of the first things that you learn that you're in the process of learning right now in law school, every sentence has to count. Every sentence has to matter. If you spend more than 3 lines, you risk losing your reader. And if you risk losing your reader, it does not matter how impressive you are. It does not matter what your resume is, because what message you're sending to law schools when you submit what we call crappy or not up to par work is it saying that you are not taking this thing seriously. And you may be, but you are not committing yourself to presenting your best self. And what you have to always realize is law schools have options. They got plenty of options. And they have plenty of options that have the same GPA as you. They have plenty of options that have the same LSAT score as you. They have plenty of options that have the same background as you. And so the only opportunity really that you get to advocate for yourself is in your writing. And so it becomes important that you understand that, accept that challenge, and be like, you know what? Don't make the mistake of saying, you know what, I'm a great writer. I write for my paper. I'm a school editor. Please, for your sake. Money don't grow on trees. And you don't want to have to find yourself waiting another year to do this process again. There's help and there's resources out there. So make sure that you use them.
Yeah, I saw some questions about my LSAT and how I went about studying. So like I did self-study. I bought some books on Amazon, and I got the Power Sport trilogy, logical reasoning, logic games, and reading comprehension, because those are the 3 type of questions that you're gonna encounter on the LSAT. I know it's all digital now. Like I took the paper one. I don't know how the digital one works, but yeah. So I self-studied. I studied for 3 months over the summer. I LSAT twice. Right there. I studied for 3 months over the summer. I took the September LSAT. I like my score. Took it again in January because I knew I was not going to have time. Because I was taking 18 credits that semester. So I knew I was going to have time, and I knew I was going to be able to commit myself to taking it in November. So I took it in January. But the part about that was I took it in September of my senior year of undergrad. And I took it again January of my senior year undergrad. But so I already had a LSAT score on file when I applied to schools. So what I did was I applied. I definitely went in and applied just to put my application in. But I would email the school after I applied to tell them that, okay, but they can also see if you're registered for another LSAT, and sometimes they will hold your application anyway. But I wanted to give myself that extra sense of security, and I went ahead and emailed the schools and told them, like, hey, I'm taking another LSAT. Please hold my application until that LSAT score comes in. And all of them did it. So you can just do that. Don't be afraid to take the LSAT more than once. You want to take it once. You want to ace it, everything. But like I said, it's a standardized test. It's like, don't be discouraged by that number that you get the first time or the number you get the second time. It's a number, and it doesn't define you.
Right.
And you can do other things in your application to make that LSAT score matter a little bit less. So just, I mean, it is those are your 2 numbers, your GPA and your LSAT. And like, if you're still an undergrad, like, definitely, especially if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, like, don't even think about the LSAT. Like, focus on your GPA. Like, that's the number that you cannot change. You can take your LSAT again. You can't take your GPA again. Like, focus on your GPA right now. Like, don't even fret. Like, you're gonna have time to fret about the LSAT, but right now, fret about your classes and your grades. So focus on the LSAT a little bit later. But if you're like a junior or a senior, like, it's time to focus on your LSAT. So just like treat it like a job. Study for your LSAT. Like I said, I did it over the summer because my semesters were pretty packed. I went to the local library and I stayed there from 9 to 5 every day, doing various practice questions out of the trilogy I got. On Saturdays were always practice test day. You can take as many as you want, but you don't want to use them up too soon because there are a finite number of practice tests, actual LSAT practice tests. And you want to use those because if you use any other form, like, you're not really going to get the full experience of the LSAT that you need. And LSAT actually sells books of 10 practice tests on Amazon. You can get those. Those are the one I got. And do it strategically. Of course, when you first go into it, you don't need to take them time because you're just trying to get the material down. But as you get closer to the test day, you want to implement test taking strategies, and you want to shut yourself down, yourself in a quiet spot, or even if you're like in a relatively noisy spot, because like you want to get used to distractions in case, because you never know what's going to happen on test day, so you want to be able to focus. Like I said, you want to implement those test taking strategies to put yourself in the situation that you would be in if you were taking the test. But yeah, I mean, just set yourself up on a schedule.
But one thing is this, like what she just said right there was the most important thing. You're going to have to create a schedule. Oftentimes, the mistake that people, they say, oh, well, she said 3 months, so I just need 3 months to study and I'll be good. No. You have to be able to create a schedule, and you have to be able to identify specifically the area to work on. Yes, we know that when we think about the LSAT, we think about it in 3 sections. However, that's just the surface, right? We know that when we go more in detail, we begin to realize the different type of question types. We get to understand the different type of logic games. We begin to identify the different type of reading comprehension that we need to be able to start the process of working on. Now, one thing that I would definitely want you to be able to share with them specifically, because I think there's a lot of people out there who have taken the LSAT already, and they may find themselves making the same mistake where they're like, well, you know what? I'm just going to study harder. I'm going to study longer, and I'm just going to look at this book. I'm going to take time off of work. Tell them how specifically what they need to do to get that score up, because longer hours oftentimes leads to lower scores.
Yeah. So if you got a score you didn't like the first time, it's because you did something wrong in your study process. So you don't want to go back and do that same thing again. So what I did when I got my scores back, I went through every single problem and I figured out what I did wrong. Like, where were my weak points? How can I improve on those? Because you don't want to waste your time doing stuff that you did well again. So you want to figure out what you did wrong, how to improve on that. Not to say don't focus on those points that you did well again, but definitely don't focus on them to the point where like that's your whole study process. Focus on what you did wrong, find out what you did wrong, find out your weaknesses, and go strengthen those. Like you said, longer hours is not going to help you. Like studying more is not going to help you. You have to study strategically. Work smarter, not harder. You're going to have to study. Like I said, what you did. Find out what you did wrong. Find out where you can improve, and focus on that. Like, don't waste your time doing stuff that you already did well. Don't waste your time just reading the same stuff again. Like doing everything you did again is not going to get you where you need to be, because you already did it and it didn't get you where you needed to be. So you need to do something different. Whether that, like, I didn't take a course, and those courses are expensive, so I don't even suggest them. But if you have the money, if you got the coin to throw, take a course. But I also have heard anecdotal evidence that the courses didn't really help people. So like, just find out what works for you, which is like pretty much a lesson in life. Like, even when you get to law school, like, find out what works for you. There are going to be a bunch of people around you doing a bunch of different things. Don't let that influence you. Get advice, sure, but find out what works for you and implement that for you. You can get advice, and a bunch of people can tell you a bunch of things, because law school, the whole application process, a bunch of people are going to be telling you a bunch of different things. But you need to do what works for you. Don't ever try to conform to what someone else is doing, because what that person's doing is working for them. And of course, like, they can say, oh yeah, we can do this, do that, but find out what works for you. Because trying to kill yourself or stress yourself to do what someone else is doing is not going to put you in a good spot. So like I said, to find out where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, focus on those and do what works for you.
Question, I just want to make sure that people understand what she's saying. Is LSAT something that you should do studying with friends?
Oh no. It's not something I did studying with friends, because you're not going to be with friends on the test. So, you just want to be able to focus. Focus is such an important thing. And for a lot of people, the LSAT brings about a level of thinking, a category of thinking that you've never done before. And it's a skill you have to learn. It's a standardized test, but it's a skill you're learning, especially the logical reasoning section. That's probably the most important section. Logic games, like, okay, do them, sure. Reading comprehension, yeah, that's important too. But being able to reason and understand, like, the subject matter, and like those questions may seem like arbitrary or obscure, but you're building a level of thinking up, because that's the exact thinking that you're going to be doing. That is the exact reasoning that's going to be used in cases. Like, you have to be able to point out, like, what's a good argument, what's a bad argument. Like, I think logical reasoning is probably the most important section, but that's just my opinion. But yeah.
And one of the things that I think is going to be very important for you guys oftentimes is what you also have to understand is that there's more than just one way to study and prepare for the LSAT. One of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they think they become dependent on these courses when you have to realize overall that outside of the course, you're all have to be able to apply things, because oftentimes a lot of my clients, and I'm sure a lot of her friends have had the issue where you take a course, the person teaching the course, they're just next level. They're getting 180s, 178s. So they may not be able to completely understand how you need to do move answers that you need. So it becomes important for you. We are now in a great place and time when it comes to the advent of technology. There's podcasts out there that you can listen to for how much? Free 99. There's also apps out there that you can download that can get practice, so you can be able to make sure that you're utilizing and maximizing all the time that you have while you're waiting in line, as opposed to looking up and making a post on Instagram. I do it too. But instead, utilize it as a time to be able to check out an app or listen to a YouTube video that talks about the law school and talks about the LSAT. Well, I tell people jokingly, and it's the truth, and she'll attest to it, you have to make the LSAT your bae. You can't treat the LSAT like a side chick. Because if you treat the LSAT like a side chick, guess what? It's going to show in your scores. But you can put the time in, and it has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence at all.
No, it's not an intelligence-based test at all. It's a skill-based test. You're learning a skill.
And it's all
some people learn that skill better than others, but it's not an intelligence-based test. That number is not going to tell you like, oh, you're the smartest person in the world or you're the dumbest person in the world. It's not going to tell you that. It's going to tell you how many questions you got right out of 100. That's it.
And one of the things that I would encourage you, like oftentimes, we always hear specifically about the skills and sections that you can improve on specifically in a short time span. People say, you know what, you could of course improve on the LSAT games, logic games, of course, because there's only so many ways to invent the wheel. So that means that if in fact you're able to practice consistently, repetitively, then you could find yourself almost predicting where things are going to be and only waiting for that one exception. Now, when it comes to reading comprehension, I know reading comprehension is intentionally dull. It's done that way on purpose. But nevertheless, if in fact you condition yourself or find yourself in the practice of potentially reading boring stuff, then that could be something that can help you. I know one of the things that I did, and you can tell some of the things you did for your reading comprehension, is I intentionally sought out boring material. I remember I read John Locke, which is boring as heck. I read Canterbury Tales, which is boring as heck. But the thing is, if in fact you want to put in the time and the energy to improve your score, it's not going to be about what you like. It's not going to be about if it's interesting to you. It's about taking the next step in your lawyer dreams.
Yeah. So like with my reading comprehension, I'm a philosophy minor, so I'm adapt to reading material. But it's like you just have to understand like a lot of the stuff they're gonna be talking about is going to be uninteresting. It's gonna be freaking about rocks and art and a lot of stuff people don't really care about. So I mean, just don't worry about that. You don't really need to know the substance. All you need to know is like what you're trying to get out of it. I went about my reading comprehension. I annotated the text as I read, like active reading. Because a lot of the reading comprehension really isn't that important. You just have to be able to pick out the important parts of it. You can either read the questions first or read the content first. Like some people go back and forth on that. I'm a read the content first person, but you just gotta figure out what works for you. Like I said before, but it's not going to be a substance that you want to read about. Like that right now, just like read boring stuff. Like if you have some free time, just go read like Aristotle or something. You're going to be adequately bored, and you'll be fine.
I mean, it's like you got to get out your feelings. I mean, real talk. That's what it comes down to. You got to get out your feelings. And you got to also understand when it comes down to it, guess what? Everybody who's applying to law school, they tired too. But
yeah, when you get here, you can be even more tired. I'm letting you know that right now.
And guess what? There's people who ain't got money. law school. There's people who got kids that want to go to law school. So there's people, what you have to understand is that there are people out there just like you in your same circumstances, in your same situations. You just got to step out your comfort zone and accept, you know what, I'm going to be tired. You know what, I may gain a couple of LSAT pounds, but you know what, I can go ahead and lose them after I get into law school and do my thing. Because I will always tell this story. It was this one young lady I remember, never forget. She put in that work, got the scholarship, got into law school, and barely recognizable when I saw her. I was like, hey, what's going on? But the thing is, you have to understand, you have to think with the long-term mindset of what you're putting in is going to be able to benefit you later. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys, especially for the people who are retaking the LSAT, is one thing, Jim, that she just dropped that I think that it's so hard, but you have to do it if you want your score to improve. You have to go and look at your score report. It don't matter about what your LSAT score is. I know, I ain't gonna lie, I was guilty. When I went and when I saw my score, all I looked at was a score. But nevertheless, look at your score report. In your score report, you are literally getting tips on the things that you need to work on and how to allocate your time in regards to how to study. And that's how she raised her LSAT score. Yes. It sucked to see that, dang, I was in that percentile. Yeah. It sucks. It hurts your pride. It makes you feel dumb. But you know what? Say to yourself, I got it wrong this time, but best believe I'm not going to get it wrong again.
Yeah, just always be willing to improve yourself. Like, never like shy away from opportunities where there is something that you can improve on. Seek that out. Find what you can improve on, because like, you want to be that complete package. You want to be that complete product. And you do that by having things that you're already good at and getting better at things that you're not necessarily great at. Which is like looking at your score report. It's going to suck. I'm like, damn, I got that wrong. But I got that right. But it's like, you got to be able to like take a step back. Like, okay, like you said, I got it wrong that time, but I'm going to get it right next time. Which, forgive yourself.
I love forgive yourself. And one thing she definitely said is, I know what I did for me. It was a bit extreme, and I see that she did it too, is I made a notebook of all my answers that I got wrong. And so it was walking and talking with me everywhere that I went. So I was able to become, so the things that I got wrong became practice. So that way, when it came time to test time and when it came time to those particular problems, it stuck out to me because I knew what I needed to work on. And so these are some things that I hope you guys can be able to apply. Do you guys have any questions as we come 6 minutes from closing out this session?
I see someone asking like, what's the percentage of my class that are older? Well, I'm actually at the low end of my age spectrum. I'm 21, I turned 22 in November. But I'm like one of the younger people in my class. A lot of people are like 20, 23, 25, 57. There's two 57-year-olds. Like, there is no time limit. Make your own schedule, make your own timeline in life. Like, don't abide by anyone else. Do whatever you want to do. Come here whenever you want.
Right.
Like, it is such a commitment that when you come here, you want to know that you're here because this is what you want to do. If you don't feel that right now, like, don't force it, because once you get here, you're gonna have to adapt, and you don't want to adapt to something that you're really feeling. So like, it's such a time. If I didn't love this shit, I didn't do this, but if I didn't love this, like if I didn't want to be here, if I didn't have goals that I wanted to attain, I would drop out. But this is something that I want to do. This is something that I've loved. This is something that I wanted to do since I was young. So it's like, always keep that in the back of your mind, because it's going to get hard. So, but just be able to know, like, this is what I want to do, and it's nothing gonna stop me from doing it. No amount of reading, no amount of anything is gonna stop me from doing it. And a note on reading, like, if you hate reading, learn to love it. Like, people will tell you that you're gonna read 150 pages a week, 200 pages a week, and you're gonna think they're joking. They're not. You are going to be reading just that many pages a week. Just for an example, in my criminal law class, over 4 classes, we were tasked to read 150 pages. So just like, and that's one class of 6. So just know, like, You're going to be reading a lot. You're going to be doing a lot. But it's something that you want to do. If it's something you really want to do, then commit yourself to it.
And just to double back on what she was saying, when it comes to average age and things like that, the average age of people being admitted into law school continues to climb each year. It's at around 28 years old right now. But nevertheless, irregardless, like she said, of your age, irregardless of your circumstances, if in fact you want to be a lawyer, then you can be one. Law schools do not make decisions and say, we're only going to allow a certain amount of people in who are this age. We're going to allow this many people who have families into law school. What law schools are looking for is people who can be successful and also be a great ambassador for school. Law schools are looking for stories. And so you get an opportunity with your personal statement, your letters of recommendations, and also your resume to show them that you're a story that they want to be a part of. It's no accident when you go to all these law school websites, they got stories on there. They got stories of applicants that they've admitted, stories of people who have continued their ascension of being successful. And law schools want to be a part of that. And so one of the things that you need to do is how Adriante presented herself. She presented herself in an authentic way that was unlike anything that anybody else did. So that's what you have to challenge yourself. If a person looks at your personal statement and it can be said about anybody else, then that means that you're not presenting something that's worthy of getting admitted into law school. Is that harsh? Yes. But is it the truth? Absolutely. So don't go up here trying to reproduce what she produced, but you have to be able to share why it's something that's important to you. We got a minute left. Do you want to go ahead and drop one final gem before we tell them goodbye?
I guess like the theme would just be like to be able to forgive yourself and market yourself, treat yourself as a commodity. Tell your story fully, authentically, and with all the not being humble in the world. Like just market yourself because that's what everybody else is doing. Just like I said, market yourself, be a commodity, make the school want you. Like you want to go to the school, sure, but make the school want you at their school. And you do that by all the other advice I've given previously. Just keep your GPA up, strive to get the best LSAT possible. Tell your story and all the statements that you have an opportunity to write. Just do everything in your power to get there. And if when you get here, just stay here and know that you can succeed because you got here. And if you got here, you can stay here. And if you stay here, you can become a lawyer. So that's it.
All facts, all facts. Course series of making the case for your lawyer dreams. Thank you for speaking to you guys tomorrow. We got more gems on the way. We want more brown and black lawyers, but we got gems. And we want to make sure that you guys capitalize and take advantage of them. You guys have a wonderful night. Again, thank you so much, Ms. Carter. You have a wonderful, wonderful study break.
Thank you. You too.